I'm Rob Sarney, and you're listening to What the Heck FinTech, where you'll experience and learn that FinTech is Fin Life. Let's get started. So welcome, everybody. We have a treat for you today. We have economic royalty, Massachusetts royalty here. We have Jay Ash, and I think he's going to hold the record for the tallest guest on this show. But you never know. I might get Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. You never know. We'll see what I can do. But so let's see here. So I'm going to do a quick little spin just so the crowd knows a little bit about you. I mean, Jay, you've had so many unbelievable roles. Well, captain of the basketball team at Clark. That's huge. You were also the city manager for Chelsea, housing and economic secretary for Governor Baker, and you're president and CEO of Massachusetts Competitive Partnership. And probably the most, I think the coolest thing was that we played in a summer league back in the day, back when I was young and good looking. You're still young and good looking. In the North Shore, back in the late 80s. The whole crowd should know Jay can board. He brings it in. It's unbelievable. I was just a catch and shoot guy. Jay, come on, get it, kick it back out. That's how it went. So Jay, I'd love to hear how. I mean, you're connected with FinTech. You're on. I think you're on the board for Mass Fintech Hub. Yeah. And so I'd love to hear your journey. The crowd would love to hear it because economics, what you've done for Massachusetts, the social good side you do so much about, and that's all connected. I mean, FinTech is Fin Life is the mantra of this show, and make that tie with FinTech because I know you enjoy your FinTech too.
Yeah, thanks. First of all, thanks for having me. And if I go through all of that, this will be a 10-part series, so I'll try to condense that. It's great to see you again. Thanks for talking about our basketball connections. The most important part about the Clark experience was not me playing basketball, but I got a degree and a wife at the same time. And so that was the most important part. And just in case she's watching, I wanted to make sure that she saw that. So, yeah.
A twofer. That's a twofer. That's great. Yeah. I met my wife in high school, Swampscott High. It's Big Blue.
Wow.
Blue.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. So you even go further back than I do. Yeah. So, in terms of my involvement in public policy here in Massachusetts, I started at an early age. Rob, I got my first campaign, I was 10 years old. I remember it like it was yesterday, and maybe some of your readers will remember the restaurant I'll talk about. But we went, the guy down the street was running for school committee, and a bunch of us kids were playing on the street. He said, "Hey, you want to come hold some signs?" And so we went out on Saturday, held some signs for him, and afterwards he took us for Chinese food. We went to China Roma in Revere, the old China Roma. And I was hooked. The Chinese food hooked me on politics. And so I've been involved in politics all my life. I didn't study planning or development in college, but I was an economics minor. And as I got into the state house and got into public policy, I got more and more interested in economic development. I got a chance to be the economic development director in Chelsea before I was the city manager. Had a good run in my hometown of Chelsea as city manager for 14 years. And Governor Baker called me out of the blue and said, if I get elected, I'd be expecting a call. I'd like you to join my cabinet. And what an honor that was. He called me and he offered me the job as Secretary of Housing and Economic Development. And I said to him, "Governor, you do recognize that I am a Democrat." Of course, Governor Baker was Republican. And he said, "Yeah, Jay, I do understand that." And I said, "Not only have I campaigned against Republicans all my life, but I've probably done a dastardly thing or two during those campaigns to those candidates." He said, "I'm sure you have, but I want you to be part of my cabinet." So, yeah, it was a great honor to be part of the cabinet for 4 years. And the last 7 years, been doing this Massachusetts Competitive Partnership, which is an organization of 20 of the largest headquartered businesses. Headquartered is important, businesses in Massachusetts. And it's the CEOs of those companies. So I have 20 of the largest CEOs, not only in Massachusetts, not only in the country, but in the world, who I get to work with. So it's been a great run around the Massachusetts economy.
Wow, yeah, and when I go on LinkedIn, I see you're all over the state talking with leaders, business leaders, city leaders, town leaders, state leaders. I mean, I see you all around. So share some stories. What are you hearing from as you go? I see like in Western Mass, you're all over the place. any stories out of those that you can share?
Yeah, when I was secretary, I did 35,000 miles a year traveling around the state of Massachusetts. Given how small Massachusetts is, that suggests that I was on the road every day, and that's what I was. And I've continued to do that. I'm not on the road as much as I was, but I'm still out in Central Mass, out in Western Mass, up north in the Merrimack Valley and down the Cape. I tell people all the time that my organization is the Massachusetts Competitive Partnership, not the Greater Boston Competitive Partnership. So we have an interest in the state's entire economy. You know, as you travel around the state, you see that there's a tale of multiple economies within Massachusetts. Certainly Greater Boston, Boston, Cambridge, Somerville, and everybody inside of 128 has a different economy than what you see in Central Mass or in Western Mass. Unfortunately for Western Mass and Central Mass, sometimes they get saddled with the same tax situations, the same regulatory environment that people can make a go of in Boston, but it isn't the same in Central and Western Mass. You mentioned that I'm a tall guy. You know, I talk about Zoom equity all the time. On Zoom, we're all the same size. On webinars, we're all the same size. But if I was in public talking to people, you'd see that I'm 6'7". I've spent a lifetime buying clothes that says one size fits all. Rob, I generally wear them once and then give them away to other people because one size doesn't fit all. The reason why I bring that up is that a one size fits all economic policy for the state isn't a good policy for the state. Springfield needs something different than Boston does. Worcester needs something different than Cambridge does. And so I spend a lot of time talking to local officials and state officials about the nuances within the Massachusetts economy in various regions and what each region needs to be strong and grow. Pretty proud of some of the stuff that I've been able to do over the years. Probably my biggest economic development success was in Worcester, where I was helpful in getting the Woo-Sox to relocate from Pawtucket to Worcester, Mass, and get the Polo Park built. Did that with then city manager Ed Augustus and the late Larry Lucchino. That every time I drive through Worcester and I go back to my alma mater, Clark University, I hear something about the Woo Sox. That makes me feel proud. But yeah, I've been lucky to be involved in any number of dozens, if not scores, if not hundreds, of economic development projects around the state, trying to make the entire state of Massachusetts a more competitive and economically vibrant place.
Yeah, no, you have. You definitely have. And I was going to bring up the Woo Sox. I actually saw you there at the shovel breaking that they did out in, I think it was in center field at the time. It was hard to tell now.
Sure. Yeah. That's right. Yeah, you being a former WPI guy. And it's been an important thing. You know, I was never a big believer in that ballparks save the world. You know, I would say, as city manager at Chelsea, I was able to get 33 major projects done in Chelsea to help that economy. But I never did a ballpark. I had many people come to talk to me about doing a ballpark in Chelsea, and they were all a bit, I don't want to say sketchy, but I'm going to say sketchy. A lot of communities have tried to build ballparks as a way of promoting their economy, and I don't think they've worked. But in Worcester, it's working. It's working because you got a AAA affiliate, not an independent league that's playing half a season, and you have a recognized national brand. The Paw Sox were a recognized national brand. Bringing them to Worcester and turning them into Woo Sox meant that we had a AAA leading baseball team that was coming to Worcester. It made a lot of sense with Boston and the Red Sox being the affiliate for them. So that was a really good project.
Now we got to get the main Celtics. Previously the Lobsters. At Worcester too. I know there was rumors going on, but then it died down. That would have been cool.
I thought you were going to go with the WNBA actually. So there's been a lot of interest in bringing a WNBA team to Boston, and that's evolving as we know. So I've had some calls about that. Had a little bit of involvement about that, but I'm not leading any effort currently along those lines.
Yeah, with the Connecticut Sun. Yeah. And sports and fintech is my nirvana. As an example. At WPI for student projects, we would do for every year that Polo Park was been up and running for 4 years, doing a fintech project with the Woo Sox.
Oh, that's interesting.
I mean, looking at all sorts of angles because everything's about how can you get money efficiency and monetizing and understanding the weather, understanding the how do you get through the park and more efficiently so you can and your tickets and And Dr. Steinberg had this vision, which I love. We got to go open the box, and the students get to hear his vision. He wants to have it seamless from when you leave your house to when you sit in the ballpark, and so you're not stuck in a line watching the game. Also, your parking's already done. It already knows that's his vision. It knows what your favorite food is. It's already there waiting at your seat when you get there. All frictionless finance, which is awesome, right? And so we got to do it.
It's a really good segue about fintech in general. I mean, fintech is integrating into all industries. Sometimes when people hear fintech, they just think of financial services, and
Right.
it's easy to understand why that's the case. But actually, fintech is migrating into all industries. So, if you think about fintech and the technology that allows for the financial services industry to move faster, smarter, and be more accessible to people, that's a really important part. But then it branches out. And Rob, I'll just say one more thing about this. This is a special thing about Massachusetts. We're a leader in so many different sectors that the convergence of sectors, innovative, really smart people coming together and figuring out new ways of applying things that otherwise in other states would just be siloed, is really the secret sauce of Massachusetts.
Right. Yeah, I think because health tech was so huge,
Right.
Health tech with fintech, put that together.
Exactly.
It's a marriage made in heaven. I mean, they both need each other. That'd be so. Think of that from a efficiency, and did actually at WPI. Working with Mass General Brigham, doing projects with them too on the efficiency of intake. And think about when you're in a hospital, how much more efficient it could be, and then more visibility into what's going on with the insurance side, on the insurance tech side. I mean, there's so much opportunities right. It's not just about the financial industry. It's a big part. Don't get me wrong with fintech, but there's so much strength, in that. And
you touched upon a couple of my members and a couple of the efforts that I've been involved in, and MACP's been involved in. We have a thing in MACP where we study an issue in the economy, and then we make recommendations as to how to capture the opportunities that exist within that emerging area for Massachusetts. And invariably, one of the recommendations is to establish hubs. So we did it around digital health. And a digital health hub was established. Mass Challenge is running that now. We did it around fintech, and the Mass Fintech Hub. We'll no doubt speak about that some more. Well, currently, we've just started a mobility hub, how we move people, data, and products in different ways. And the emergence of driverless cars, and we're going to have airplanes without pilots in them soon, and the flow of data and the batteries that are necessary in order to run electric vehicles, all that stuff. Massachusetts has an opportunity to capture that. We've done that around cybersecurity. Just our most recent one is around housing, coming up with housing innovation. So you think about all these areas where Massachusetts is a leader. It all comes back to innovation and entrepreneurship. And if I could tell a half story, half truth, half joke, half truth story. Governor Baker was always asked, what's the secret of the Massachusetts economy? And he would say that it's about helping to establish two great institutions. He was talking about Harvard and MIT, but he could have been talking about Clark and WPI too. It's about establishing two great institutions and then waiting 200 years. The ideas that flow out of our academic centers with innovation and entrepreneurship allow for the Massachusetts economy to be a leader in the next thing. And fintech is one of those things. And we've been a leader, as you know, we've been a leader in fintech before it was called fintech. Financial services has been around forever. And you think about Massachusetts being a place where the mutual fund was first created, where venture capital first happened. You go back all the way back into the 1700s. Massachusetts has the second oldest bank in America. That bank, Mass Bank, is now through various acquisitions, Bank of America. So Bank of America's roots go all the way back to 1784, in Massachusetts Bank being the second bank chartered in the United States. So we've always been in the middle of the economy here in the region, in the country, and in the world. You think about when Massachusetts was settled and all the trading that was happening between the new colonies and Europe and Asia. Massachusetts was always in the middle of that. So we found our way back then, and kind of Governor Baker's joke, you establish something, and then for 100 years, 200 years, 400 years, 500 years now, it's made a difference in the economy.
Yeah. I mean, I'd love to, because you understand so much about, economics, and obviously Massachusetts economics, but also across the country.
Sure.
Where do you see in fintech, what should we be doing more or less of to really take advantage of it? And I hear a lot of people do, correlate it to that rocket ship from a health tech standpoint, and what they did in that playbook. Is it different? Is it the same for Massachusetts? And I'd love to hear you take to, because United States in general are behind, a lot of countries in what they're doing in fintech, right? I mean, we still have a lot of paper. We still do a lot of manual stuff, where a lot of other countries are getting, more frictionless with that, right, and more digital. Yeah. Well, what do you think? What do you think? What if you had a crystal ball? What do you think we should be focusing on, and what should we be doing economically here in Massachusetts to advance fintech?
Yeah, Massachusetts is a major player in fintech, not only in the United States, but around the world. There was one rating that indicated that Massachusetts, Boston, is one of the top 25 global financial centers in the world. There's only 5 in the United States. Boston is one of them. So it suggests that you have a good base to begin with. Financial, we already talked about financial services sector, an important part of the Massachusetts economy. It makes up 15% of the state's overall economy, employs something like 200,000, 225,000 people. So it's already an important part of what defines Massachusetts, and it has defined us ever since our founding way back when. So having a strong financial services sector, and given the innovation and entrepreneurship that happens in academic centers with CEOs that are headquartering major companies here in Massachusetts, you see this convergence of ideas and interests come together. And so, I got to see the beginnings of an idea about propelling Massachusetts forward around fintech. It's been growing here steadily. Massachusetts is in the top 5 in terms of fintech startups over the last year and a half. So we're a major player in the United States on that, and we believe that there's going to be continued growth in the financial technology services sector, and you've identified some of the reasons why. Every time you go into an office and somebody's using paper, there's an opportunity, right? Every time somebody is trying to find a better way to invest money, there's an opportunity. And I'll tell you, I've talked about this convergence. There's an important part to think about the convergence and why it's so important here. John Hancock, named after one of the founders of our country and somebody who was important in the financial services of Boston back in the day, John Hancock runs an annual symposium on longevity, helping us to think about living longer. In fact, they call it a longer period, healthier period, better period. They run this, and the whole idea behind the Hancock thing is that Boston and Massachusetts will become a hub for people who not only live longer, but figure out ways of helping other people live longer. How does that apply to fintech? Because if people are living longer, that means that their money needs to last longer, right? If people are living longer, that means that they're going to be looking for more money into their golden years to spend on maybe active recreation or different kind of housing or more trips. So you see the overlap that takes place. So we have a great opportunity here in Massachusetts to be in the middle of thinking about how fintech affects the future, taking advantage of things like AI and the like. And so, the first part of the question is, do we have a role in it? Absolutely do. Boston has itself over 400 fintech startups. That's amazing. And Boston Fintech Week, which is coming up shortly, will highlight lots of that. And so we have a place here. We're active. We're recognized around the nation and world as a leader. So that's all important.
Please come back to part 2 with Jay Ash, as Jay goes into his amazing stories in history of how fintech is connected and supports Massachusetts' economy. Thank you for listening to What the Heck FinTech. Make sure you tune into our next episode as we continue to interview FinTech leaders and share real-world stories from across the FinTech ecosystem, so you can fully understand that FinTech is Fin Life.